Welcome to the Worth It Practice podcast. I am so excited about my guest who is here today. So I am a personal fan of Uriah Guilford. You will have seen him in my Worth It newsletter. He is basically the person who taught me how to use AI in my practice. So I'm just really excited to have him here for this amazing conversation where I think we're going to try to both touch on a lot of topics since Uriah and I are both big nerds. We just like talking about lots of different things. So Uriah, welcome to the Worth It Practice podcast.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here. And it's always fun to talk to you, especially about the things that we're going to talk about today. So I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
Me too. I'm so excited. I've been just waiting to do this all week long. So Uriah, can you tell everyone who you are and what you do in case they have never heard of you before?
Absolutely. My name is Uriah Guilford, and I'm a marriage and family therapist located in Northern California. And I had a solo practice for a long time, moved into a group practice, and then started a virtual assistant business. And at the end of the day, my passion is really supporting people and helping them find solutions for life and work. And I've transitioned from being a clinician to a CEO and a business owner. And I'm just having so much fun learning how to use AI to accomplish the same mission. Really, it hasn't really changed over the last 10 to 15 years. I'm just thrilled to talk about the things that we're getting into today.
That's so interesting what you just said about the mission of running a practice hasn't changed, although the technology has really changed incredibly.
It has. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've been a tech enthusiast ever since I was probably 10 or 11 when I got my first computer that my dad gave me. I've been interested in that for a long time. And then I got obsessed with psychology and counseling and pursued obviously advanced degrees and licensure. But through that process of starting a private practice, I discovered that I loved business equally and then maybe more. And when I found out that I could combine technology with business, with helping people, that was like the trifecta for me. Yeah.
It's interesting that you moved into the role and saw yourself as a CEO and then realized this is fascinating. And then how do I get all the other things I like to work with the business I already have?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. How can I pull in everything else?
Yeah, I'm just always looking to maximize enjoyment in my work, to be honest with you. If you want to talk about productivity, that's not really on our agenda today, but if you want to talk about maximum productivity, it's really when you find something that you enjoy doing so much that you would do it for free and so much that you get yourself into a flow state where it genuinely doesn't feel like work. All the productivity hacks out there are wonderful and there's tools and tips and we can talk about all that kind of stuff. But finding something that you love doing that doesn't feel like work a lot of the time is the best secret, really.
I completely relate to that. I always tell people that if I won the lottery tomorrow and never had to work again, I would still keep running my business. And
That's
I wouldn't take the lottery money and put it in there. I would want to see what I could create without it. I would want to see how that could work. I would be bored, I think, without that constant stimulation and creativity. And it feels so good to help people.
And that's how I define success. Yes, I want financial freedom. I want time freedom. But at the end of the day, I want something that I'm excited about doing when I get up in the morning. Like today, I'm thrilled to be talking to you. Like you said, I was looking forward to this as well. And it's like, great, I get to some degree play for a living. And it also does good for a lot of people. Win-win.
Yeah. Win-win. All right. Well, so I'm curious, since you are the person I always think of when I think of using AI, of course, ethically in practice and in business building. What was the first way you ever used AI in your practice? What was your first attempt at integrating it in some way?
I was somewhat late to the game, actually, because ChatGPT basically launched in 2022. And I waited a while to get on board, which is a funny thing about my personality. If everyone is doing something, I tend to be like, nah, I'm not interested. So it took me a little while. And the funny thing is the first time I really used it, literally the first time I signed up for an account and tried to do something, I was at a mastermind retreat with a group of male therapists. This is kind of funny. We were doing we were doing a mastermind retreat in Las Vegas. And I popped in there and I was like, what is this thing? I don't know. I'm going to try it out. So I had it write a song about 5 male therapists getting together to mastermind about their business, like a rap, right? Not an application to private practice necessarily, but we all got a kick out of that. And then I think one of the first things that I did, and this is, again, not directly private practice related, but I used it to write my book, The Productive Practice, to brainstorm that book. And funny enough, chapter 8 of my book was completely written by ChatGPT. I was going to say that in the chapter, but then I was like, I don't know what therapists are going to think if they read that Uriah wrote this chapter with AI. So I took it out.
But now you've told everybody.
I know. The secret is out. The secret is out. Yeah. So to be honest with you, I didn't find a really useful application for AI to my private practice until maybe 1 to 2 years ago. And there was a couple light bulb moments, primarily with Claude, to be honest with you, about how this could really unlock a lot of possibilities.
I like how you're describing yourself as a late adopter when I didn't even open ChatGPT until maybe 6 months ago. Like I didn't know anything about that. And I still know plenty of people who have never, ever tried any of these platforms at all. I think therapists and psychologists, we tend to be like very reluctant to use new technology. It's kind of scary to us. And that's why when you watch someone else using it, that's one thing I really love about your podcast, Uriah, is you're like, this is how you do it. And look at me do it. And then all of a sudden I think, I could try that. There's actual utility for this. I can try it too. And Definitely. It makes it less scary. I really credit you as being my secret mentor that you didn't get paid for.
Thank you so much. I'll take it. I'll take it. Like I said, I've always been excited about technology. And so back in 2011, I gave my first presentation on internet marketing for therapists because I'm always learning. And I'm like, well, how can I apply this to my business, to my practice? And then how can I help my friends, essentially? And then after that, get this, I held in-person workshops to show people how to build a WordPress website. One of them, a clinician, even brought their desktop computer with their big monitor and put it on the table. And we were building websites together. I charged them $150. So I've been doing different things off and on over the years. And then, like we were talking about, when I discovered the use cases for AI, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to tell my friends. And then my friends were like, you should do a mastermind. I was like, yeah, let's do that. Yeah. So it's just kind of like a discovery process. And I like that a lot of the things that have been successful in my career have been basically that, serendipity and just me trying things and discovering what I'm interested in and what I'm good at and then how to make it helpful for others, which I think has worked out for me.
Oh, absolutely. I can tell you it's very helpful for others, for sure.
Yeah.
If you're a therapist or psychologist entrepreneur and you want to use AI in your practice, like where is the biggest bang for your buck? What is the thing that if you used AI to figure out would be like the game changer for you? Or is there just one thing?
It might be a little bit different for each person because AI tools can do so many different things now that it depends. Like if notes are your nemesis, right, then it's probably clinical like note writing tools. If marketing is something you can never wrap your mind around, using Claude as a thought partner and a marketing strategist is probably the biggest unlock. So it's really kind of about what are your strengths as a business person and as a clinician, and where can you basically supplement your weaknesses, essentially, or the things you don't enjoy doing with an AI tool. So that's really the question to ask. Is not like, is there one thing, but what's my one thing, right? If I went back to like seeing clients and writing notes, I think I would be very tempted to use one of the note writers, right? Like I think I would want to do that because I never enjoyed doing that. So I think it's individual. And my kind of like filter that I tell people to use is like, well, what's your actual problem right now? What's your pain point? Where are you stuck? Where's the friction in your life or your business? And think, okay, well, how can AI help me with that? Instead of necessarily, like I do this too, but I listen to all these experts and they talk about how they're using AI and a lot of it doesn't apply to me. So it's, oh, that's fun and interesting, but it's not useful to my everyday life. Does that make sense?
No, that makes complete sense. It's sort of thinking like, where is the area where I need some additional help? I need a robot brain, and then you bring it into that area.
Definitely. Yeah.
As you're talking about it, I'm thinking about that what I use AI for the most truly is explaining other technology to me. Like, how do I go in and do this? Even simple things like how do I go into Therapy Flow, my CRM, and write this kind of email when I'm not familiar with it? Or actually, I just released an episode about how I figured out how to audit SEO in my practice using Claude with a prompt.
Yes.
Yeah, I would have known how to do that before. I think the tech stuff sort of scares me and intimidates me sometimes. So I make AI explain it to me in human language, and then I can have all the knowledge I want. And that for me it's like the translator of technology to me.
We wouldn't think about that with human team members. We wouldn't say, hey, intake coordinator, tell me how I can best make use of your skills. But with AI, it really works. It's like, how can you help me, basically? And if you just describe your problem or your challenge or just free flow what's going on, your AI tools will tell you what is the best use case. Because, we were talking about using Whisperflow to dictate instead of type. And that's one of the best ways to interact with AI tools is just to talk. kind of to ramble, because if you're thinking about it and it goes from your brain to your fingers to your keyboard, you're going to self-edit. But if you just click a button and then just talk, it's going to collect the most important part and then know what to do with it, right?
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah.
It's like just experimenting with it and problem solving with it. And then knowing when it's telling you things that are not consistent or aligned with what you're trying to do and giving it that direct feedback.
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
pushback is helpful.
The best thing that I've learned in the last 6 months is about how to give your AI tools more context about you, your practice, your business, because it gives you much, much better output if the more you tell it about yourself. We won't get into this in this episode, but there's ways to give Claude or ChatGPT a lot more context about you and not have to do it every single time that you pop in and write something. So like my Claude account knows everything about my business goals, my core values, my team, what they get paid, what their roles are, what my annual goals are, what my personal goals are. So it often reminds me of those things, keeps me on track, and then answers my questions in the context of the broader picture of my life and my work. That's kind of the biggest unlock now, because before it was like, how do you write the best prompt and give the words that you need to give to AI to get the result that you want? Now it's how do you provide the best context? Then you have to say less. You say like, what do I need to work on today? Or how do I grow my business? Or, just general things. And your AI tools will be like, right on it. Now I know this and this about you. And here's what I think you should do.
You're right. That is so interesting. Should that be what we talk about today?
We certainly can. Yeah. And that definitely ties into some of the new use cases for Claude and the way that people are using it for sure. Yeah, we can. Yeah.
All right. So if I want my Claude to know everything about Thriving Child Center, PCIT experts, the Worth It practice, consulting business, both of my podcasts, and I guess something about my personal life. I'm like, I don't even need Claude for that. But let's say I did. How would I give it all of that information
Right.
so that it's actually truly customized to me
Yeah.
and can be more useful?
Have you and I ever talked about the master prompt concept? Did we get into that?
I think we talked about it briefly, but I'm
Okay.
sure the audience has never heard of this concept.
Yeah, this is something I learned last year, and I'm happy to give you and your audience my master prompt template. And it's basically if you answer all these questions and then you put it in a certain place in your AI tool, it will then have the context that it needs. And it's basically just a long questionnaire, essentially asking you specific questions about you, how you want to use AI, what do you want to get from it, and then details about your business, your services, like I said, your goals, core values, etc. So it's easy as answering those questions. And honestly, you can take that template and put it into your AI tool and say, interview me, and pull all these answers out of my head, right?
Oh,
And then, right? And then you take that, and in the case of Claude, which is my favorite tool, well, I really like Claude and Gemini right now. I use both of them for different things. But inside of Claude, you can just go into the settings and there's like this personal preferences section. And you literally just copy and paste all that information into personal preferences. And then what it does is it pulls from that with every chat that you have. So it just basically, if you take an hour to fill out the master prompt, put it into Claude, or there's some other ways you can do this with other tools, it will then automatically be like 100 times better.
Oh my gosh, that's like gold right there, because that's the frustration. It's like you tell it something and it understands it and then it forgets something key that changes the results. And so then you tell it again, it's
Right.
okay, I understand you. And then it forgets, and then you start getting angry with it. Why can't you remember?
I thought you knew me.
Yeah, what is wrong with you? Your memory disorder, Claude. But it's like
Right.
putting it in foundationally.
Definitely. Yeah. So that's really useful. And you can use that with other tools. ChatGPT doesn't have something exactly like that. The memory features of all these platforms have gotten incredibly a lot better over the last year or so. So they actually can pull context from your other chats and other things. So it's already better. But Gemini, as an example, you can connect. Well, you want to use Gemini if you're using it for your private practice through your Google Workspace account with the signed BAA and all those kinds of things. So inside of Gemini, it's much easier even in some ways to give it context because you can just type the @ symbol and say @Gmail or what else would you use? Calendar. Or you can do a general tag, which is @Workspace. And then Gemini will be able to go and look in your Google Drive, look in your email, even if there's PHI in there, and pull information from those sources and then give you answers based on the context of your Google sort of ecosphere.
So I have a question, an associated question about this master prompt. Let's say I want my admin team to be able to use Claude and have all the information about the practice in one place, like SOPs and ideas of you do this and then that and workflows, and just basically be a question and answer place for them. Is that something I could create in Claude that is just specifically for the back end part of the practice?
That's a great question, by the way. And one of the things that you can do is take the master prompt that you create for your practice and copy it, take out your personal information, give it to your team members. And I've done this to great results. And they basically just fill in their personal details. And the rest of it is, they obviously work for your business. So the rest of it is the same. So essentially their Claude account, let's say, will give them the same answers essentially as it gives you, a little bit personalized to them, but it will give them information that you want it to give them because it has essentially your business master prompt. So that is definitely the thing that I would recommend for leaders in your practice, even admin folks too. I think that can be useful. And then if you want, you can upgrade Claude to Claude Teams, where you can have shared projects and the projects can have their own extended context. So yeah, those are two ways that I would recommend doing that.
By the end of configuring something like that, could you have a Claude setup where your admin says something like, a client wants an appointment with this provider, but they're unavailable. Who else would be a good fit for them? And it would, the answers, if you set it up. Or I don't know how to do an appointment in Therapy Flow. Give me the SOP for how I do it. Would it work?
Yeah, so I'll tell you a little secret. Some of the platforms like Simple Intake, which is my AI-powered CRM, and Therapy Flow, and some others, they have features coming that you can basically access AI inside of the CRM platform and ask it how to do things, ask questions. It will actually take actions for you. I don't think this is unlocked for most of those platforms yet, but it's coming where there's like AI, and this is kind of a trend, but AI inside of your software tools is going to answer your questions, solve your problems, and actually do things for you. But one of the things you mentioned there is just about, it sounds like it's kind of like about intake flow or matching, or kind of like maybe an intake person getting advice on who to match someone with. That kind of thing is not that hard at all. You can just take your provider directory essentially, or create a document that's a provider directory. And honestly, you could put that in any AI tool, and then it could sort of advise the intake coordinator on matching. I like that idea a lot.
Well, matching is so important. It's something you and I are both really obsessed with, is how important it is to have a front-end admin team, right, that can come in and answer clients' calls in the moment, get them set up with someone who can talk to that client, either the therapist or some kind of matching client coordinator,
Right.
and then get them on the schedule. And I know your whole business is all about how to set that up well.
That's what we do. We're the intake experts.
Can you describe it a little bit, the two parts of your intake programs?
Yeah, definitely. And I like how we're transitioning this conversation from using AI as the owner to empowering your team and sort of like leveling up your workflows, if you will, basically to provide better service to potential and current clients, which I think that's really the goal. We want to have a successful business. We want to have a worth it practice. But these are the upgrades that really make a difference. So at Productive Therapist, our core service has always been human intake coordinators. And the funny thing is that I've never said the word human more than I have in the last year, right? Because that's a distinction now. Like, I have a human therapist and we provide human intake coordinators. And so we help practices manage their entire intake process from the front end to the back end, general admin tasks, to obviously responding to inquiries and getting people matched with the right therapist. And that's a very specialized task and an important role in any group practice. So that's the core of what we do. And then just in the last year, we've also integrated Simple Intake, which is an AI-powered CRM that kind of works together with the intake coordinator to basically respond to inquiries faster, whether they're coming in through contact form or a phone call. So we have an AI receptionist that can answer the phone and do a lot of cool things, including book a consultation on the calendar of the human intake coordinator. So those are our two main, like we call them the tools and the talent that we put together to empower practices to have a much more streamlined and highly effective intake process. It's really cool.
Yeah, it really matters what your intake process is like. Especially if you're in a private pay situation, you literally can't afford to not care about that part of your practice.
True. Yeah.
I was sharing with you, Uriah, right before we jumped on this call, that it is so important to have a good intake call So our office manager is in Peru. He had a replacement who we had to let go yesterday.
Oh,
And so
no.
basically I am our intake coordinator right now. And I have my clinic director jumping in there too. So we think it is so important that we have literally rearranged our clinical schedules to be the intake coordinators for the business
Oh, my
in
goodness.
this moment until
Yeah.
our office manager gets back on Monday. It is so important. It's really crucial. And having a system that makes sure that someone is doing a really good job at that is essential. I really think so.
Yeah, I think the intake coordinator is like the queen bee. If anyone's ever read the book Clockwork,
Yes.
like one of the VIPs, essentially one of the most important people in the practice. Obviously, you have to have marketing working and networking and billing has to be working and all these things. But if your intake department falls apart, then you're really going to struggle. There's so many things we have to focus on as group practice owners, but you don't want to wait to streamline your intake process until it's broken or you have to fire somebody. I'm not saying you did, by the way. I'm just saying take a look at it now, consider it, and see what you can improve. It's worth it.
Oh, yeah, it's absolutely worth it. Sorry, now we're getting nerdy into Clockwork, which is one of my favorite business books. But we
Yes.
consider in our practice the queen bee role. And queen bee role in Clockwork is the most important thing the practice does. Like, why does your
Right.
business exist? And what has to happen? What is everyone going to drop everything else to do? And it's right fit
Yeah.
clients getting in with the right fit therapist so that they can make impressive improvements, right? So that they can get the right outcomes. And so when that process broke for us literally yesterday, everyone stopped everything to make that happen.
That's
And
how you know, right? That's how you
that's
know.
how you know. Well, we know that's the main thing. So we rearranged our time around it. And that's why having a really solid intake process and matching coordinator is something you can't just sort of fumble around with it. You have to be really intentional about it. And the idea that there's AI tools and a group of intake coordinators that you can hire through Uriah who are actually really good at doing that, that is a huge time saver and it's of high value to any business.
That's such an interesting story. And also, things happen that you can't avoid. So you could build the most beautiful system with the best tools and the most amazing people, and life happens, right? So that's just part of the roller coaster of entrepreneurship. But when you have solid things in place, it definitely makes it better. I hope the next couple of days for you are not too bad.
It's fine though. You know, we
Good,
came
good.
together, we came up with a system. We had a feeling something like this could go down, so we had already prepped some systems just in case. And that's sort of what you do, right? When you're an entrepreneur and you run into a situation that's not ideal, is you problem solve, you regroup, and then you go
Yeah,
for it. And if you can
yeah.
use AI to help you, like I'm using AI to tell me how to do the tasks in therapy flow, right? But if you can use AI to help you effectively, then it's much easier, right? You can get your answers more quickly.
That's a good takeaway right there. Using AI as a thought partner and a strategic problem solver, I think that would be one of my main tips for people listening to this, along with if you need an intake coordinator, call a productive therapist. But I think what you're talking about makes me think about how resilient we are and how resilient we need to be to survive past year 1, year 5, year 10 of running any kind of business, really. And I do think that AI, I mean, you can be over dependent on it, but I think it really helps with the resiliency. And one of the stories that I tell is, when I lost my practice manager who had been with me for 7.5 years. And I could have kind of predicted it, but I really didn't see it coming. And we had 3 weeks notice, which is better than nothing, right? But this is a real story. I actually went to Claude when I got her notice by email. And I said, Jamie just gave 3 weeks notice. Definitely one of my queen bees. Well, I don't know if that sounds weird, but just gave 3 weeks notice. What do I do? And so Claude, knowing everything from my master prompt, all about who Jamie was, what her role was, all the things, created an amazing transition plan so basically in 5 minutes, I had at least some semblance of a plan. So I didn't feel like I was just swimming and struggling like with what's next. So using it in that way, whatever problem you're facing is a good thing. And then also obviously get human feedback and have people in your life that can, you can call and can support you, not just AI, but it's an amazing tool.
No, I love that because then you knew what to do next. It's that moment where you're sitting there in panic thinking, how do I handle this? That's actually crippling. But
Right.
once you can start brainstorming, honestly, just being able to put out, this is my problem, right? To anything that is receptive, it lowers your stress level. And then to actually have some strategy, even if it's not perfect strategy, even if it's just ideas, lets you get it together and move forward as a resilient CEO who solves the problem. And sometimes you end up with a better solution than you started with.
Yeah,
There are silver linings to all those kinds of things.
definitely. Definitely.
Well, Uriah, I so appreciate you being on the podcast today. So it sounds like what our audience has now is access to a master prompt so that when
Yes.
we run into problems, we have that and we can have it in Claude and it can be our problem solving partner if we need one. We also know that everyone has problems in their business where they have to do admin tasks even when they're the CEO. So don't panic.
You're doing
That
great.
Yeah, you're doing great. And that there are other people who are out there to support you, and you don't have to be alone when things go wrong. And it doesn't mean you can't bounce back. So I think this
Absolutely.
has been a very productive conversation,
I agree.
And now you also know how to get in touch with Uriah if you listen to us and realize that your matching process needs some work and you're looking to get new clients in.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a new resource. Can I tell you about it?
Please tell me about it.
I don't think I've mentioned it to you. I recently recorded a workshop and it's called How to Never Miss a Client. And it's basically kind of unpacking how we think about combining the best humans with the best AI software to respond and connect with every client. And it's actually only 15 minutes. It's totally free. If you go to productivetherapist.com, you can opt in and get that workshop. It's actually, I think it's really good. I'm proud of it.
Yeah, give me all the links to these things. We'll put it in the
I
show
will.
notes and then we can access them really easily. All right,
Perfect.
thanks, Uriah. I so appreciate your time. It was wonderful chatting with you today.
Thank you.